Okay, another one on the list. Sylvester Stallone. A little guy from, I think he started off in porn. He wrote Rocky. Guy who talks like this. You wouldn't see a guy who talks like this with a sort of like slow kind of way, you know? And to think that this guy right now, you know, is gonna win several Oscars, have movies win several Academy Awards, right? And still kick ass in the modern day, you know what I mean? Like, how are you gonna think this little tiny guy that is just not very good looking? I mean, a lot of people like him. Like, you wouldn't call, like, he's not gonna be like a chiseled, good looking guy, right? But yet somehow he managed to persevere through all that and things in his life. To become, to win Academy Awards, Oscars, and he's still a Creed. He still did it with Creed. I mean, the guy's fantastic. I mean, I don't know about personal life and who he is. Certain people and certain personas, you can tell in themselves, they are powerful people, and that personality translates into their characters. When you see Rocky, who do you see? You see a guy who, I get knocked down, I get beaten up, and I get back up, and that's what I do. You knock me down, and then I get back up, and you knock me down, and I go, let's get back up. And that's who he was. Whether it was Rambo, whether it was Rocky, whether it was any of his movies that he does, he's a guy who's getting beaten up, knocked down, and getting back up. It's a different sort of confidence. It's a confidence of, I'm never gonna quit. I'm not quitting until I get the job done. And he's like a fire hydrant. It's a little guy with strong, but you could believe that a guy with this kind of heart gets knocked down and keeps coming and keeps coming. And it's about perseverance. It's about never give up. Just keep going forward. It doesn't matter in life, you know? You just keep trucking right through like plow. If there's a brick wall in front of your way, knock down the brick wall. Keep going. That's what people love about him. And even in his life, he just keeps going forward. Even to this day, he's still going forward. He's still doing action movies. He's still doing, for me, one of the best action movies of all time is Rambo. I mean, I'm talking about one, because all the other ones are junk. Sorry. The other one's just not, they don't compare to First Blood. That one is far and away the best of his movies to me. And I like Rocky. I mean, Rocky to me is one of the best movies of all time for me. And that just shows you how much I love Rambo. I mean, First Blood. First Blood has everything. The thing about Stallone, guys, is he doesn't deliver the wit. I don't know. I mean, I think of only one movie where he was actually action-packed and had wit and comedy in it. I mean, real comedy, right? And that was probably Demolition Man. Send a maniac to catch a maniac. What's with the three seashells, right? That one, he had some wit to it. See, Rocky was funny, but not intentionally funny. Kind of like a dim-witted funny. To me, it's still one of the best lines in any Rocky movie is the way he proposed to Adrian. Can you guys remember that? That's an iconic scene that for me, it will live in infamy because it embodies everything that Stallone's characters are. Before he proposes, takes you to the zoo. So like, you know, you like the zoo? Yeah, I like the zoo. Yeah, me too, you know. Say like, what are you doing for the next 30 or 40 years of your life? I was wondering, you know, if you wouldn't mind marrying me too much. What? This is not a traditional proposal by any sense. He's just such a confident guy, but still dumb. She goes, what? Into her ear and then says, I said I was wondering if you wouldn't mind marrying me too much. It's not a proposal like you'd see in most romantic comedies. He's not pulling out the ring. He's not going down on one leg. It's not Holly. But it worked. It was so great. And to me, it's one of those lines, it's one of those moments that I don't think it was ever built up in Hollywood as a great moment. Personally, I've always loved that moment in Rocky because it just showed who he was. As a guy just like, hey, you know, hey, still like, I was in the middle of something, but hey, won't get married, why not? Okay, no, alright, it's fine, you know, it sucks. And then even afterwards, he says, okay, I'll marry you. He says the most average Joe thing he can say. And I'll be a good husband too, you know, I won't leave like hair in the sink or nothing like that. It's not Hollywood at all. There's nothing Hollywood about that scene. That's what I mean by his personality, and I think only Stallone could pull that off. Not many other actors, I think, could pull off that line in that scene and still kick the shit out of Apollo Creed and then be Rambo and you're like, I didn't start this war. So when you see Stallone, you see heart, kicking ass, but doing it not because he was particularly talented, but he's doing it all on heart. Which is, and that kind of what appeals to us about him. You notice that all these characters, and I'm talking about actors, because actors become characters. They are superheroes in their own way. I can relate to a guy who, through just sheer will and training, and he wasn't particularly skilled, but he trained and he worked hard and he didn't give up. And it was that sense of never quitting, never giving up, and always moving forward, not just through Rocky, through Rambo, and through all of his other movies that he did. Just keep plowing through, and we can see ourselves in a man like him. That's what made him a superhero. So like I said, we talk about these superheroes, but to me the action heroes of old were superheroes, but the characters themselves were superheroes. And we believed that they were heroes not because they wore capes, not because they flew and had special armor. And I think they appealed to us for that reason, right? And that's, I think, what movies are missing today. The next guy on my list, though, is a guy who I wasn't sure I was going to put on, because I had to think on it. And because I wasn't sure if he kind of was an action hero, if he was a comedian. It kind of bridges the gap. I eventually went with him because I do believe that he became a hero to a lot of people. And when people start emulating you, like they did with Bruce Lee and the others, you create a genre onto yourself. He created a genre, not just in comedy, in his action movies as well. And that's kind of where I decided eventually to go with him. He's not as traditional as these other guys when it comes to being an action hero, but I think he did enough action movies and had enough people want to emulate his style where I could believe that he in himself is a hero, where I think that he fits this list. And that is Eddie Murphy. Now you're going to say, well, Eddie Murphy's a comedian. Yes, he's a comedian. But he did action movies, and he created his own sort of genre of action movies. And that's where I have him put on this list. Okay, so we have Beverly Hills Cop 1, 2, 3, 4. We have Metro, 48 Hours 1 and 2. He has enough action movies under his belt to be considered an action hero in my eyes. And the style that he created, you could see, was emulated by actors by today. His sort of confident, cocky, kiss my ass sort of style. Like, you can do pretty much go inside anyway with his fast talking, sort of smooth sort of way. Like, that's what made him different. He had his own style that everybody liked. So Eddie Murphy could pull off the action, right? He was athletic enough, you could believe his athletic prowess enough that he could pull off the action, like hanging off the buildings or hanging off the back of a truck. But what made Eddie Murphy great was his personality, was he could use his mouth, which to me his mouth is his superhero power, right? Everyone had their own superhero power, whether it was Rocky's heart, or the brute strength from Arnold Schwarzenegger, or whether it was martial arts, Bruce Lee, or the monkey business from him, or just the unassumingness of Bruce Willis. Eddie Murphy was his mouth, right? His mouth was his superhero power, where he just talked his way into any situation or out of any situation, and that was where he shined, right? And he could back up his words. That's what made him so good, is that he wasn't just a mouth. He could just talk like himself and just do anything he wanted. Just, hey, I'm Eddie Murphy. I can kick your ass. It wasn't just that. It was that he could back up his statements. I'm gonna kick your ass. And you knew he could do it. Just the reason why I don't put guys like Will Smith on the list, who probably has more action movies than he does on his belt, is because I think when you see someone like Will Smith or Martin Lawrence or people who did action movies who were also funny and had a similar style, was that you could tell that they borrowed from Eddie Murphy. Eddie Murphy started this, and that they liked it and they took it. And then so you have to give it to the pioneer of this. See, Eddie Murphy was the guy who inspired someone like Will Smith. He inspired people like Martin Lawrence. He inspired guys like Kevin Hart, guys like Chris Tucker. Never touch a black man's radio. Where did that come from? That came from Eddie Murphy. They draw from Eddie Murphy and what he had already created, right? And not many people could deliver the lines the way Eddie Murphy. Now, people don't realize in Beverly Hills Cop, Stallone was actually supposed to be Axel Foley, but he wanted to control it too much. He wanted to change it into to suit his personality, because that's who he is, right? Again, I'm saying these guys are greater than life, and they changed the movie to suit them because that's who they are. Eddie Murphy came on, and he was just, you couldn't see him in anyone else in that role but Eddie Murphy at that point. You couldn't see Stallone pulling off lines like this, where he goes into Victor Maitland's office and like, hey, I'd like to speak to Victor Maitland, please. This is a private club, and you're not a member, you can't go. Well, let's just tell him that, that I'm Ramon, and that, like, he and I, we got hooked up at a club or something, and I went just to a clinic, and I got herpes simplex. You couldn't see Stallone pulling off that line, but when you got Eddie Murphy going like, I'd like to speak to Victor Maitland, please. Tell him that Ramon is here, right? I tell him I got herpes simplex 10. I think you should go and tell him yourself. I think that would be best, right? Only Eddie Murphy could pull that off. Maybe Chris Tucker, but Chris Tucker would be more of an arrogant one doing it. Eddie Murphy could bridge the gap between overly confident and not arrogant. And I think a lot of that comes from his laugh, where he could say something like, you guys have become more and more like me every day with the big dicks and the afro, and everyone would be like, oh, and then he'd calm everybody down with his laugh. And everyone would, oh, he was just joking around. See, he had a style on of his own. His action movies were great. To me, Beverly Hills Cop 2 is the best of his action movies. It's, again, I have this thing for Tony Scott. I think he directed that one too. It was great cinematography. His music, dun, dun, iconic. Dun, 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 dun. Right? Just great iconic soundtrack to that movie. The action was okay. I mean, the final action sequence between him and the main villain, the cinematography, the doves flying in the background, and the suspenseful action sequence between him. We're talking not crazy action like martial arts fighting, but just the way it was set up, the suspense of it was really good. But one of his movies that I love, that always flies under the radar for most people, and that's The Golden Child, where I think he was great. It was great. It was good action sequences, and I know it falls under a different category of maybe action fantasy. That's why I kind of don't put it on the list of this one. But to me, it's an underappreciated movie, The Golden Child, where he's doing his action, he's doing his Eddie Murphy-ness, where he's like, he'll pick on the villain with his mouth and really making him hey, Monty. It's the devil, by the way, and he's picking on the devil the whole time. It's great. And I recommend that one. Again, I like these zany kind of movies. So Eddie Murphy to me is on the list of great action heroes. I think he deserves, and he can augment any action movie he was in. You could throw him in a movie in his peak. He did a lot of improv in these movies, and he never stole a scene from anyone. He would work with the actor in a very simpatico kind of way to augment the performance in general without actually trying to be a scene hog. You know what I'm saying? He didn't steal your scene, but he owned his. Now, last on my list, one of the greatest action heroes of all time. He's probably the action hero, and that's Harrison Ford. Him, it's just a body of work that you look at his and say, you know, can't touch this. Ding, 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 ding. Right? You got The Patriot, Blade Runner, Indiana Jones, Star Wars, whole and soul, like the iconic characters he's created. That's another thing a lot of these actors do. They have more than one iconic character. And with him, I mean, listen, there's no one touching Indiana Jones, right? And this is what I'm talking about with these guys. You look at Indiana Jones and you say, so much could have gone wrong with Indiana Jones. He's an archaeologist with a whip and a gun, and he's trying to get ancient relics at the same time as he's fighting Nazis. This is a recipe for disaster. And I think only Steven Spielberg and George Lucas can look at this premise and say, I think we got something here. And I'm telling you, if it wasn't these guys attached to this movie, no one would touch this movie. I know Harrison Ford wasn't supposed to be, I think it was Magnum P.I. What the heck is his name? I can't remember the name, but he was originally supposed to be him, and he was too busy with Magnum P.I. And I think it wouldn't have worked. I like him as an actor, but I don't think he would have worked as well as Harrison Ford. One thing Harrison Ford, his magical power, his superhero power is confidence is one. Delivering smooth lines. They're like almost average lines, but they do it in a way that's confidence. Even when he says, I got a bad feeling about this, still a hint of confidence in that. You know what I mean? Like, most people could say, I don't know, you got a bad feeling, but he does it in a way that's like, got a bad feeling about this, but reassuring you at the same time, like, I got this, kind of thing. His ad-libbing was just on point, pulls out the gun, shoots, that was a scene that he ad-libbed. They had this choreographed sword scene in part one, and he pulls out the gun and just shoots him. It's those kind of things that these guys can own to elevate the movie and give it its own flair, and that's one thing that he brings to his movies. He brings an element of distinction. And that's something that's his superpower, because I was going to say, is distinction. And it's hard to distinction. Yes. It's interesting because most of these superheroes aren't the chiseled. He's kind of like the only one that's sort of the guy that sort of goes against what I've said. I mean, he's good looking. He's got that swagger, but that subtle swagger. He can deliver a line, but what really gets me is his poise. The believability that he could do the things he does comes from his confidence in himself and his poise. Like, he's never been a particularly great fighter in any of his movies, but he's good enough. He's not a great athletic guy, but he's good enough. He's not a super intelligent mathematical genius of any sort, but he's smart enough. And what you get is a guy who can think quickly on his feet, and he's competent in almost every area, that he can find a way out of any situation and work himself out in any situation. He's kind of like embodies little pieces of everything. Like some of these other actors, he kind of embodies a lot of pieces of all of them, and that's kind of what makes him the ultimate hero, action hero, is that he kind of embodies a lot of the heart from Stallone, the mouth, bit of the mouth, just like not Eddie Murphy style and going crazy, but we're talking like a bit of like a subtle sort of thing where he can say what he has to say when he has to say it. Like the whole scene in Indiana Jones 3, the Last Crusade, where he pretends he's Scottish. He can use his mouth to get himself in and out of problems. at times. He has the sort of Bruce Willis rugged sort of look to him, even though he's still good looking, but he still has a ruggedness to him. You know, you can kind of feel that he might not be at the highest point in his life at all times, but he's still at a, you know, at a low, maybe a lower point, but he still somehow perseveres, and the Stallone, the heart and all that stuff. So again, he doesn't have the choreography of martial arts or the persona of but nobody does, and those guys are superheroes for different reasons. Anyway guys, that's my list. That is my list of heroes in the movies. Obviously Indiana Jones being the best action movie, and again, I don't necessarily, it's an action adventure, but if I was to go action movie, I don't know, I really can't pick. For him, I can't pick a favorite, but they're all good. And that's why I have him as probably the ultimate guy. What is the moral of the story, guys, right? The moral of the story that I'm saying is that what we're lacking today, we're lacking the hero in the hero. And the hero doesn't necessarily come from the script. Sometimes it does, but most of the time the hero comes from the actor and the person who's in the role of the hero. And he has to embody the hero in the role he's taking. Because you have guys like right now, you could put maybe on the list, The Rock, Chris Pratt. See, the problem with Chris Pratt is, he's fun, he's funny, but he's not a believable hero. And I know people are going to be like, what are you talking about? He is a hero. Not really. He doesn't emit confidence. When I look at a guy like Chris Pratt as a hero, and again, he might change my mind, he might change over years. I still see him today and I say, if he's gonna get the job done, it's gonna be sort of like with the help of friends. And I don't see him as taking charge as the one guy who, you know what I'm saying? Chris Pratt is a guy I think he could work as a team and come to the conclusion, but I don't think he could work as just himself on the screen as a single one action hero doing the job that we expect out of an action hero. The Rock can do it. I believe in The Rock. But The Rock, again, he just still lacks that extra bit of charisma. He's getting better at the lines. Rampage, I noticed he was getting a little better at the lines. But he still doesn't, it almost seems like he's working with what they give him. And I am still not seeing enough of The Rock come out in his personality. And you know what I mean? See, I found when he was The Rock, the wrestler, he had far more character and personality. I don't see enough of him in his roles. He takes on the role, he does, and he's fine. He doesn't own the role himself in the way I believe these action heroes used to do. You could take Schwarzenegger in all his movies, Eraser, True Lies, and put it, and it's the same person. It's still Schwarzenegger in this. The name is the hero. Same with Bruce Willis, same with the other guys, right? You go for the name because the name, they brought something into it. Whereas The Rock, you like The Rock. He's a likable guy. He's like, you know, he's a buddy of yours. He's good. He still falls short of what I'm talking about. And I don't know who else is out there that could do this. And I do believe I blame the superhero movies for this. Because we sort of are now relying on the costume to make the hero, as opposed to the actor. The one guy who I could say still's doing it today, I mean, again, he's Tom Cruise, but Tom Cruise came from from that generation. And I might even put Tom Cruise in the same vein as the other ones. As an action hero, yeah, he has his own style, he has his own confidence, he has his own personality, and he brings Tom Cruise to wherever he goes. So you want to slip Tom Cruise into those guys? Sure, I actually agree with that too. You can put Tom Cruise there as well. I think he got a little weird in his career later on. I think he sort of dropped off a bit in our minds, but he's still rocking it. He's still really good. I have to slip Tom Cruise in there. You know, last minute slip in and playing an audible. Tom Cruise is snuck into number 8. Now, I'm going to propose this to you. Who do you guys see out there? Is there an actor or actress you see that can do this, that can put themselves into the role of the hero, like a hero of old? Maybe it's confidence, maybe Hollywood is different, maybe they're not letting them be that way, maybe it's not even the actor's fault, maybe it's just the business itself isn't letting them, you know, everything has to be formulaic, you know, everyone has to be so chiseled too, the looks. There's very few people who you see have the look of Bruce Willis or Stallone in Hollywood anymore. I mean, they have to have the chiseled, gorgeous look with the chiseled body. And maybe because they're doing that, they're having a hard time finding people with inner strength, inner beauty. So anyway, guys, so I propose this to you. How do you think Hollywood could fix this? I mean, I do believe Hollywood has an issue. Do you agree with me? Do you think Hollywood is too hung up on facial beauty? And maybe that's what's keeping women back. You know, these female heroes all have to look like Angelina Jolie. The greatest female superhero, like action hero, was Sigourney Weaver to me. I mean, she didn't do that much after Aliens as far as heroism is concerned, like that sort of action, so which is why I didn't put her on the list. I would have if she had done more than just Aliens, but she proved with Aliens, hey, she's an attractive and distinguished woman but she's not supermodel attractive. And I think there's an element to that gives character to these people. And I think that's pretty much what we're missing. We're missing the character in our characters. Anyway, guys, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you guys agree with me? Who would you put on that list, judging by the criteria that I put forth? If you have your own different criteria, that's fine. And yeah, so thank you guys for watching.